What is going on, football fans? Back at it with another New York Giants video, and I apologize. I had to film this video on the phone, so no intro. Computer's acting up, and I was out late last night. Otherwise, I would have had a video up on Cockrell after it happened. Unfortunately, I was not able to do that, but we'll talk about that in this video. We'll talk about his potential replacements, and we'll talk about the guy that the New York Giants just brought in at the cornerback position. I'm also going to dive into some of the things that Joe Judge had to say regarding the cornerback position and regarding whether or not he thinks the New York Giants need to go out there and bring in another cornerback. Now, Cockrell, of course, I was excited about. Cockrell played opposite Bradbury with the Carolina Panthers, and, I went over the numbers. He was a very effective corner last year, in limited action. He played a little bit in the slot, a little bit on the outside, only surrendered one touchdown the entire year. I think it was a passer rating of 67 or 68 when quarterbacks threw his way. So I thought he was a very good veteran add for the New York Giants. Unfortunately, according to reports, the contract fell through. I'm assuming the Giants weren't willing to give Cockrell the money that he desired, and now he'll move on as a free agent, and the New York Giants potentially could look out, outside the organization and look to bring somebody in. And I'll go over some of the names that I think the New York Giants could and should look into at this point in time. But Joe Judge was asked about it today, and Joe Judge said that he doesn't really view it as a pressing need. They'll bring in one if they feel if they feel there's a guy out there, I suppose, but he doesn't feel like it's a pressing need to bring in a veteran corner, which is kind of a head scratcher to me, being that you just went out there and you brought in one with Cockrell until the contract fell through. Now, based off of this, based on the fact that the contract fell through, that pretty much crosses Logan Ryan off the list for me, because Cockrell wasn't going to make near what Logan Ryan projects to make on the open market. And I think if the New York Giants wanted Logan Ryan, they would have signed him already. Logan Ryan, a good cornerback. He's versatile. He can play on both the inside and the out. He's still relatively young. All these guys I'm going to talk about are right around that 29, 30, 31 year range. But Ryan's the first guy we'll talk about because he's the most popular name. He's 29 years old. Now, the one thing that I looked at that kind of opened my eyes a little bit, he surrendered a pass rating last year of 90. And what he's going to command on the open market, due to the fact that I think the New York Giants weren't willing to give Cockrell the amount of money, which probably pales in comparison to what Logan Ryan is looking for, don't expect Logan Ryan to be a New York Giant, even with his ties to Joe Judge. Not to mention, he's not really an exterior corner, which is something that we're really looking for at this point in time in his career. Some of the other options that I've talked about Brandon Carr. Now, he's a little bit older than some of the other guys I'm going to talk about. I believe he's 34 years old. The most attractive feature for Brandon Carr is the fact that, one, I think he played with the Cowboys with our DB coach Henderson, if I'm not mistaken, and he's never been hurt. He's been durable throughout his entire career, which is something that I'd be looking for, because right now, any of these guys is a Band-Aid. Cockrell was a Band-Aid. Any of these guys would be a Band-Aid. So Carr may be a guy that you could bring in on a cheap deal that could come in and play for you. So I continue to bring up his name. Claiborne's another one. Morris Claiborne, and one of my subscribers pointed out the other day, he said you should talk more about him. And when I really, looked into everything, Claiborne could make a ton of sense. Morris Claiborne, again, played for Henderson, played for Garrett. Garrett was his head coach with the Dallas Cowboys, was the 6th overall selection there. Didn't live up to expectations, mainly due to injuries. He couldn't stay on the football field. Then played for the Jets for 2 years, in which he pretty much played the entirety of 2 seasons. Played 15 games over the course of, I think he had 2 separate one-year deals, but he played 30 games combined over those 2 seasons. He then went on to play for the Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs last year. He will be, I believe, 30 entering this season. He only had 8 games last year. I'm not sure if that was due to injury or the fact that he just couldn't get on the field. He has a PFF grade right in the 62, 63 range. But on a cheap deal, the fact that he's got familiarity with the DB's coach, familiarity with Garrett, Claiborne seems to make a lot of sense as a potential candidate for the New York Giants to look into. I talked about Kirkpatrick, who played with the Bengals. I talked about Ryan and Carr. And I think those are some of your leading candidates that the New York Giants could look to bring in if they look for an outside presence at the cornerback position, along with a number of others. There's a bunch of free agent corners out there right now that the New York Giants could look into. That's just a number of them. But Joe Judge seems to think that it's not a pressing need. They went out there, they brought in Prince Smith. That's just been reported about an hour ago. He was an undrafted free agent cornerback out of Rhode Island. Do I think he's going to be an answer? No. Do I think he'll make this roster? Probably not. He was undrafted for a reason. The Eagles cut him for a reason. The Eagles, once they had to, cut from 90 to 80, they decided to cut him. He was one of the 13 undrafted free agents that the Philadelphia Eagles brought in. He was the 9th highest paid, and they viewed him as one of the most expendable. after such time they cut ties. He's 5'10", 192 pounds. He played well at Rhode Island, but let's keep in mind, it's Rhode Island. It's a small school, and that's the main reason why he went undrafted. Another thing that I read when I did some research on him, well, at Rhode Island, because of the pandemic, they did not have a pro day. And when you go to a small school, something like a pro day, you would think would go a long way. Well, he didn't get that opportunity, and some people seem to think that he went undrafted because of it. He's a hard worker. From everything that I read, seems to be a pretty good athlete. But, of course, there's definitely going to be some cons to his game due to the fact that he's an undrafted free agent. I don't think any New York Giant fan would feel comfortable with him, an undrafted free agent, going into the season being our starting second corner. As of now, I don't think that would be the case. I think our second starting corner right now, the favorite, is probably Love. But I would have much rather had a veteran guy like Cockrell play that position due to the fact that you didn't draft Love to be an exterior corner. You didn't draft Darnay Holmes to be an exterior corner. They both projected to be slot guys. Love potentially a safety, which is where he played last year. Now, maybe he could get the job done, and the New York Giants are going to have to sort all this out well at camp. Another interesting name that was asked to Joe Judge in terms of potentially playing the cornerback spot was Jabrill Peppers. Jabrill Peppers, of course, has been a safety throughout his entire career in the NFL. Now, this is not unprecedented. The Dallas Cowboys did this with Byron Jones. Byron Jones played some safety, then converted to corner. I think he initially started as a corner, went to safety, went back to corner. Something along those lines, played well, got paid handsomely, which is the biggest attraction to a guy like Peppers. Corners, if you can do it well, seem to get paid a lot more on the open market. Now, will the New York Giants look to convert Peppers to a corner? Well, if they did, what would their lineup look like? Well, I think Julian Love would definitely be your starting safety alongside Xavier McKinney, and you'd have Darnay Holmes in the slot. The question is, can Peppers get it done? Well, Judge said they're going to give him every opportunity in camp to show what he's got at the position, and we all know that he's about versatility. Maybe Peppers could bring some versatility. Am I comfortable with him being our second corner? Not really, because it weakens the safety spot. You know, and it's a bind that the New York Giants are in right now due to the fact that DeAndre Baker looks like he won't be with the team. And I know I continue to say innocent until proven guilty, and we'll see how it all plays out. But according to some of the things I read, that court case could be getting backed up 150 days. And if it does, he's not going to be with the New York Giants this year. Obviously, there's a backload due to the pandemic, even though that they put in some provision where they're trying to speed up the trial. Don't expect DeAndre Baker to be putting on a New York Giants uniform this year. He remains on the exempt list. So this is a problem that needs to be filled by the New York Giants. Joe Judge seems to think that, at least if you listen to him, I don't think they're going to bring in a guy of notoriety. Maybe they'll bring in another veteran on the open market that's a free agent. Some of the guys I've talked about, but it certainly will not be Logan Ryan, at least if I had to guess. Which leaves you with a veteran or potentially Love converting to the outside. And I'm sure the Giants are going to try out all the players on their roster. They're all going to give them an opportunity to prove themselves. And this will probably be the biggest question mark leading up into the season, especially in a defense like this one that likes to blitz a lot. You need solid production out of your corner play. We'll see how it all plays out. But for now, if you ask me, I think they may go with what they got in-house. I was surprised when the deal didn't work out with Cockrell. I was excited about it. And due to the fact that he moved on and the fact that the Giants showed a willingness to bring somebody in, I still think it's a possibility. But based off of some of the things that Judge said, it doesn't seem like the Giants are in a rush to spend a lot of money at a potential cornerback on the open market. But we'll see how it all plays out. Hopefully, the New York Giants find their guy to play opposite James Bradberry this season. As always, guys, if you liked what you watched, please subscribe, drop a comment, maybe give me a little thumbs up. Cheers.